They say weddings bring out the best in couples, but mine revealed the worst. One moment I was planning my future with the woman I loved, and the next I was staring at a stack of papers that threatened to tear it all apart. We'd been engaged for 6 months, and everything felt on track. The venue was booked, our guest list finalized, and we even started planning the honeymoon. I thought we were building something together, a foundation for life. Then, out of nowhere, she brought up the idea of a prenup. At first, I didn't panic. Prenups can make sense, right? They can protect both people if things go wrong. But the one she gave me wasn't about fairness, it was about power. As I flipped through the pages, my heart sank. It wasn't balanced in the slightest. Everything I owned or earned would automatically be shared, but everything she brought in would remain strictly hers, locked away beyond my reach. I sat there in disbelief, wondering how she could hand me something like this with a smile on her face. It felt like she didn't trust me at all, as if she was preparing for the end before we'd even started. I asked her why she thought it was necessary. She brushed me off with a casual tone, saying, "It's just to protect myself. Don't take it personally." But how could I not take it personally when it cut straight to my worth? Marriage, to me, was about partnership, about two people sharing burdens and building something greater than themselves. Yet the words on that paper told me she wanted protection only for herself, leaving me exposed. I tried to hide how much it stung, but inside, a storm was brewing. Did she see me as temporary? A placeholder until something better came along? Or did she secretly think I was after her money all along? Her timing made it even worse. She wanted me to sign it before we locked in final wedding payments. It was like she was cornering me, making sure I couldn't back out without massive financial consequences. I stayed up that night staring at the document, unable to shake the feeling of betrayal. The woman I thought I knew, the one who always talked about us and our future, had turned into someone who only thought of herself. The more I replayed it in my mind, the clearer it became. This wasn't about protecting love. It was about control. Once I realized that, I knew I couldn't ignore the red flag waving right in front of me. But what I didn't know was just how far she would go to make me sign. And that was the beginning of the unraveling of everything we'd built together. The next day I decided to talk it through calmly. I didn't want to assume the worst, so I asked if we could revisit the agreement. I told her I'd be fine with a prenup. It actually protected us both. That, I thought, was reasonable. Her reaction floored me. She didn't even pause. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're overreacting. If you loved me, you'd sign it without hesitation." Those words cut deep. Since when did love require legal conditions stacked against one person? I reminded her of all I had done for her. When she switched careers, I supported her, even covering rent and bills for nearly a year while she found her footing. I thought we were a team, but apparently that history meant nothing. She brushed it off like it was no big deal. "That was temporary," she said coldly. "I've worked too hard to risk losing what's mine." The way she emphasized mine told me exactly where her priorities weren't. It wasn't with me. I asked if we could rewrite it so both of us felt secure. Her response? Sharp no. "This isn't up for debate." And she added, "If you won't sign, maybe we shouldn't get married at all." My heart sank hearing the ultimatum. Suddenly I wasn't her anymore. I was an obstacle, someone she needed to pressure into submission. Her words replayed in my mind like a broken record. Sign it or no wedding. The love I thought we had was crumbling fast. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the document on my desk. Was I crazy for questioning it? Was I selfish for wanting fairness? But deep down, I knew the truth. If I gave in now, I'd resent her forever. I pictured myself years into the future, married but voiceless, knowing I had signed away my rights before we even started. That image scared me more than losing the wedding itself. A lifetime of inequality wasn't love, it was a cage. Still, I didn't want to throw it all away without one last effort. So I decided to confront her again, but this time with raw honesty. I wanted her to see the hurt in my eyes, to understand what this prenup really symbolized. I rehearsed the words in my head, hoping she'd soften when she realized how much pain this was causing me. Maybe she'd reconsider. Maybe the woman I loved was still in there, hidden behind fear and control. But when I finally brought it up, her reaction showed me someone I didn't recognize at all. And that was the moment I began to realize our engagement might not survive this storm. When we sat down again, I tried to bare my soul. Told her plainly, I love you, but I can't start a marriage where one of us has all the protection and the other has none. This prenup doesn't feel fair. It feels like a wall between us. Her face turned cold, almost like she had rehearsed her answer. This isn't a negotiation, she snapped. Either you trust me enough to sign, or you don't belong in this marriage. My heart clenched at the bluntness of her words. I stared at her in disbelief. Trust. I had trusted her with everything, my time, my loyalty, even my finances when she needed help. But suddenly my refusal to sign away my rights meant I was the untrustworthy one. It was twisted logic. She launched into a rant about how she had more to lose than me. She talked about her family's money, her career prospects, and her connections. It was the first time she spoke to me like I was beneath her, unworthy of equality. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was this really the woman I'd planned to marry? For months, she'd acted like we were equals, partners building a life side by side. But now, she sounded like she saw me as replaceable. I asked her quietly, "Do you even see me as your equal? Or have you always thought you were above me?" She didn't answer, just crossed her arms, leaned back, and muttered, "Stop being dramatic." The dismissal stung worse than shouting. In that moment, a strange clarity washed over me. I realized I'd been in love with an idea of her, someone who supported me, cherished me, and valued teamwork. But the woman in front of me, she cared more about control than love. My mind started replaying past moments, red flags I had brushed aside, times she had dismissed my opinions in front of her friends, times she insisted on getting her way with money decisions. Maybe the prenup wasn't new, was just the mask slipping. As she sat there, waiting for me to cave, I realized something important. If I signed, I'd be setting the tone for our entire marriage. It wouldn't just be about finances. It would mean accepting her dominance in every decision. I couldn't live like that. I wanted a partner, not a boss. And I knew deep down that if she truly loved me, she wouldn't force me to choose between her and my dignity. Love isn't about ultimatums. It's about compromise. By the end of that conversation, the air between us felt heavy, almost final. I hadn't said the words yet, but I knew. The wedding was already broken in spirit. It was only a matter of when I'd make it official. The days that followed were suffocating. Everywhere I turned, people asked about wedding details. Friends asked about tux fittings. My mom wanted updates on the rehearsal dinner. And coworkers congratulated me like nothing was wrong. I carried the secret alone. Inside, I was torn apart. I couldn't admit to anyone that I no longer trusted the person I was about to marry. I wanted to protect her image even while she was tearing down the foundation of ours. Pretending felt exhausting. She, on the other hand, acted as though nothing had happened. She texted me about centerpieces, flower arrangements, and deadlines for the caterer. Not once did she bring up the prenup again. It was as if she expected me to fold quietly. That silence was louder than any argument. It told me she wasn't interested in compromise or understanding. She was waiting for me to give in, as if my resistance was just a phase she could outlast. That realization crushed me. After days of avoidance, I finally answered one of her calls. My voice shook, but I stayed firm. "I can't marry you under these conditions." For a moment, there was nothing but silence. I thought maybe she'd finally understand. Instead, she exploded. She accused me of being insecure, ungrateful, and even manipulative. "You're twisting this into something it's not," she shouted. "I'm just protecting myself. If you loved me, you wouldn't make this a big deal." Her words hit me like daggers. In her eyes, I was the problem. My desire for fairness was selfish. My refusal to accept an ultimatum was betrayal. Somehow she had turned herself into the victim and me into the villain. I stayed quiet until she finished. Then I said the hardest words I'd ever spoken. "The wedding is off." There was a long pause. I braced for tears, maybe even begging. But what came out instead was cold and sharp. "Fine," she said flatly. "You'll regret this." Her voice didn't shake. Her tone wasn't sad, it was icy. And in that moment, I realized there had never been love in her ultimatum. Only control. I wanted no part of it. The next morning, I made it official. I called the venue, the florist, the photographer, Canceling everything cost me thousands of dollars and endless awkward conversations. But with every phone call, I felt a strange weight lift off my chest. It hurt, of course. I'd imagined our future together, and now I was erasing it one cancellation at a time. But underneath the pain was a sense of relief. Relief that I had escaped a life built on imbalance and manipulation. For the first time in weeks, I breathed freely. But even as I started to move on, I couldn't shake her last words. "You'll regret this." Little did I know she wasn't finished with me just yet. The fallout was immediate. Within days, the entire wedding circle knew the engagement was off. Family, friends, co-workers, everyone wanted answers. My phone buzzed nonstop, each message reminding me of the decision I had made. My parents were supportive, though surprised. My mom quietly admitted she never fully trusted my ex. Something about her always felt transactional, she said. Hearing that stung, but it also made me realize others had noticed red flags I'd ignored. Her family, however, was furious. They called me immature, claimed I'd wasted their daughter's time, and accused me of backing out because I couldn't handle her success. The narrative quickly shifted from me standing up for myself to me being the villain. On social media, the situation got worse. Her friends unfollowed me overnight. Few even sent cruel messages, calling me insecure and saying I wasn't man enough to marry her. They had no idea about the prenup or the ultimatum. It was easier to blame me. At first, their words hurt. I wondered if everyone really saw me that way. Was I just the guy who couldn't handle a strong woman? But deep down, I knew the truth. I hadn't rejected her strength. I'd rejected her control. Privately, I grieved. Nights felt empty, and mornings were filled with a strange ache. I missed the future we had talked about: the house with the big porch, the kids we'd dreamed of naming, the silly inside jokes. Letting go of that was painful. But each time I remembered her cold words, "Sign it," or "No wedding," the ache was replaced with clarity. I hadn't abandoned a dream. I had saved myself from a nightmare. The relief was subtle at first, but it grew stronger with time. I threw myself into work and hobbies. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during the engagement, even took a short trip alone, something I'd never dared to do before. Each step forward reminded me that life wasn't over, it was just beginning again. Still, part of me expected her to disappear from my world forever. After all, she had made her stance clear. But I underestimated her. Just when I thought the storm had passed, she found a way back into my life. One evening, I got a text from her. "Can we talk? Just one coffee?" I stared at it, unsure if it was a trap or genuine. Against my better judgment, curiosity got the better of me. I agreed, thinking closure might help. I had no idea that what she was about to say would leave me stunned and prove that I had made the right decision after all. 2 months passed before I saw her again. When she asked to meet for coffee, I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but another part wanted answers. I needed closure, so I agreed, promising myself I'd stay calm no matter what. She walked into the cafe looking different, less polished, less confident. She smiled awkwardly, almost as if we were strangers. For a moment I felt the tug of old memories, the woman I once loved, but the hurt quickly returned. We exchanged small talk at first, but then she leaned in and said, "I made a mistake. Let's start over. Forget the prenup. Forget the fight. We can fix this." Her voice was soft, almost pleading, but something about it felt rehearsed. For a split second, I wondered if this was real regret or just convenience. Did she miss me? Or did she miss the idea of being engaged, of saving face with friends and family? The way she avoided mentioning the hurt told me a lot. I asked her why she wanted another chance. She sighed and admitted, "People told me I pushed too hard. I realize now I went too far." But even as she said it, her words lacked true ownership. It sounded like damage control, not remorse. What struck me most was what she didn't say. She never apologized for dismissing me, never admitted how unfair the prenup was, never acknowledged the ultimatum that ended everything. She wanted to erase the past, not confront it. I looked her in the eyes and said quietly, "I can't go back. Love isn't about winning or losing, it's about trust. And you showed me that when it came down to it, you valued control more than us." My voice didn't shake this time. Her smile faded, replaced by irritation. "You'll regret this," she muttered. the same words she'd used before. But instead of cutting me down, they only confirmed what I already knew. She hadn't changed. She just wanted the upper hand again. I stood up, finished my coffee, and told her maybe I will. But I'd rather regret walking away than regret staying with someone who doesn't respect me. With that, I left her sitting there, stunned and speechless. Walking out of that cafe, I felt lighter than I had in months. For the first time, I knew I had made the right decision. The prenup wasn't just paperwork. It was a window into who she really was. And I wanted no part of it. Now, looking back, I don't feel bitterness. I feel grateful. I dodged a marriage that would have drained me of dignity and peace. Sometimes the hardest choices end up being the ones that save you, and this one saved me. If this story resonated with you, or if you've ever faced a difficult choice in love, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more.